friends. I'm here to tell you about the last quarter that is either happening on August 14th or 15th. I feel like when I Googled it first, it said 14th, but according to the ephemeris that I use, it says 15th. And it probably also depends on like where you are in the world. So yes, the moon will be in Taurus, the sun will be in Leo as it has been. This is coming right in between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. So in my opinion, this third quarter is going to ask a lot from us. It's a square. We can't forget that these quarter moons are squares. We love to focus on the new moon, the conjunction. We love to focus on the full moon, the opposition. But squares get us every time, do they not? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so the moon will be in Taurus. That is a sign of wealth. It's also a sign of beauty. In my opinion, it's a sign of quality, you know, because it is a sign of like luxury. And I feel like a lot of these things, because its planet is Venus, so a lot of these things can kind of get confused with some aspects of Libra. For example, Taurus is represented by beauty, but also, but so is Libra, because they kind of share the same planet. But Taurus is a different kind of quality. It's kind of like highbrow. It's like luxury and money, and general resources like familial wealth and whatnot. Whereas Leo is self-expression, self. I don't want to say boastful nature, but just, you know, personal love and kind of a self-worth that comes from your own uniqueness, as opposed to the self-worth of Taurus that comes from how much money you have, which, you know, you need money, so I won't blame them. But anyway, it's the last quarter, so that means it's asking us to let go of something. Since it is the last quarter that is in between these two eclipses, I feel like what they'll ask from us is more than what we're used to on last quarter specifically, and possibly more than what we're willing to release. You know, it's always better, like I say, it's always better to give something up as opposed to have somebody rip it away from you. So I'm just going to go through the signs and talk about where you can expect to be challenged, where you can expect to be asked to release something, and where you should look to release something. Not only something physical, but also release any, what's the word? Grudges. Release any grudges, release, you know, just forgive people. And it may not even necessarily be a person, it could be an event. Just, you know, forgive and release, let go, and let the universe. Okay, yeah, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. Aries, Taurus is in your second house and Leo is in your fifth house. So you might be asked to let go of some sources of income. You might be asked to let go of your dependence on resources, or rather you may be asked to let go of the, instead of like letting go of the actual money, which nobody wants to do, you might be asked to let go of the like attitude of having your money define your worth. And this can come in many forms. Something that I think of is like, fifth house is lovers. And let's say that you are wealthy. Either you come from a wealthy background or you just have your own money and you're like self-made. This last quarter can ask you and challenge you to stop relying on money and luxury items and this feeling like, oh, I'm so, you know, I'm so rich and like I can't associate with those under me, or just like, you know, having your self-worth be inflated by the money that you have. This last quarter can rip that away from you and challenge you to see yourself as worthy beyond your money. And I think that sometimes it's a little difficult because, for example, if you are self-made, or even if you come from a line of wealthy people, you can feel proud that, like, you know, you did it and you made it for yourself, and like you know, you come from a line of people who are industrious, or, you know, you yourself are industrious, and it's hard to detach that from the money that you get. But this quarter could challenge you to do so. On the other hand, it could challenge you to release certain sources of income or just general resources for your business. If you have a business, it could challenge you to re-examine how the money that you give to your children, if you have children. So a lot of different things coming up, but definitely geared towards resources, quality of life. It may challenge you to stop eating crap if you really love yourself. I know it's hard, but I think that it's really integral. And people may not see it like that, but I just happen to. So it may challenge you to, think about what you eat. It may challenge you to think about, try to think of second house things, resources, the food that you eat, the quality of it. Also just, what you see is beautiful, more or less. All right, moving on. Taurus, the moon will be in your first house. Leo will be in your fourth house. This will challenge you to be more, kind of like assimilate more with your family. It's going to challenge you to think, what can because remember, this is in the waning period of the moon, so we're releasing things and we're taking things away. So you might want to release some grudges. Also, you might want to, or you might be challenged to let go, kind of be more collectivist when it comes to your family. Let go of things that distance you from your family. Let go of identity traits, specifically that distance you from your family. You don't have to change who you are, but it's just like you may be challenged to, not be so divisive. The best way I can think of it is like have a more collectivist view with your family and try to integrate more with your family and downplay or completely eliminate identity traits that distance you from your family and kind of ostracize you from your family. Also property. You may be challenged to let go of property, or you may be challenged to I'm trying to think identity and property. You may be challenged to, I don't know why you would let go of part of your identity for property. That doesn't seem likely. But essentially, I'm thinking more family. But if you do have property, you may have to let go of some of your property because it is challenging you to let go of things and make space for new things. So if you let go of some property, for example, if you sell your house, you may have the money to buy a better house, a new house, if you are moving. Okay, Gemini. Taurus is in your 12th house. Leo is in your 3rd house of communication. So you may be challenged to rest a bit less. You may be challenged to give up some hobbies in order to interact more with those around you, to communicate more. Also, the things that you do during your downtime may not be communicating well with others. I feel like it's just improbable. But if you do have some sort of hobby that's like shooting deer, and you just moved to a super liberal town and nobody likes that, nobody is a fan of you shooting deer, based on very, it's not necessarily humanitarian, but save the animals type ideas. You may be challenged to let that go, so that your ideas can, so that people don't kind of have a bias against you, which can inhibit your communication. Also, 12th house is spirituality, so you may have to let go of certain spiritual beliefs that you have. You may have to let go of certain hidden enemies. Let go of grudges, let them go. See this open palm? Let them go. Grudges, hidden enemies, old enemies, you may have to let them go in order for you to expand your network and just kind of facilitate better communication amongst those in your general sphere, like acquaintances and whatnot. And that can hurt you if you have grudges toward an enemy, or if you have enemies, period. It can hurt your interactions with acquaintances. We don't always think of it like that, because we kind of think like, oh no, like if I have an enemy, then like all my friends will be on my side. Sure, but your acquaintances who don't care much for you and you don't care much for them may not be on their side. They may be more friends with the person that you're enemies with. However, you need acquaintances to function in daily life. Here's an example that I thought of. If you read Mastery by Robert Greene, obviously I love Robert Greene. I feel like I've mentioned his work before, but if you read Mastery by Robert Greene, there's this anecdote. So the way Robert Greene writes his books, at least for the 3 that I've read, he uses a lot of anecdotes. He uses a lot of like stories about individual people, and then derives like teaching lessons from them. So one of the things that he used, I forget the name of the guy, but essentially he was this physician somewhere in Europe, and he found out that like that basically there was this really big disease going around that was killing mothers who, like new mothers who just gave birth to their kids. It was killing them like left and right. He found out that if you just wash your hands before helping a mom give birth, it will significantly reduce the rate of death. So essentially these doctors were going around giving birth to like patient after patient after patient without washing their hands. So obviously they're, the disease is going from one person to the next person and killing mothers left and right. So he was like, just wash your hands. The director of the hospital that he was working at was like, wash your hands? That's ridiculous. Like, that's not gonna do anything. They didn't really have any conception of germs at the time. So like, wash your hands, like that's, you're dumb. The guy got in his feelings. He held a grudge for the rest of his life, and it really alienated him in a big way, because, he just, it really just alienated him, because anytime people tried to talk to him about his ideas, he was so hell-bent on like trying to prove this guy wrong and trying to get back at this guy who told him he was wrong, which was the guy with the right idea was trying to get back at the head of the hospital, right? Since the head of the hospital told him that he was wrong. And it ended up like harboring his communication. So that one grudge kind of ruined his career, or it didn't ruin it, but it stunted his growth. And it also alienated him, because all people could see was the grudge that he had against the other guy who said he was wrong. It didn't matter that he was right. Just the fact that he was like, had such a hang up about it. So beware of hidden enemies. If they do surface, let them go. Just let go of grudges that you have with other people, so that your communication can be received well. I think maybe also be very open-minded. Be willing to let go of like outdated beliefs, not just spiritual, but possibly also subconscious beliefs. So, and I feel like in order to facilitate that, you have to be open-minded, so that you can let go of the beliefs that no longer serve you and just kind of are outdated. All right, Cancer. Taurus is in your 11th house of awards and recognition and social circles and whatnot. Leo's in your 2nd house of money and inheritance. So you may have to let go of some friends. Perhaps some of your friends are draining your resources. Maybe they're using you. It happens. Perhaps they may not necessarily be using you, but maybe your friends are the type of friends to like constantly go out to like 5-star restaurants for dinner, and you just don't have the money for that. You got to set some boundaries. You have to let go of some things. It's going to be challenging. You're not going to want to do it, but you have to. And the universe will do it for you if you don't do it for yourself. So another thing, you may have to forfeit certain awards. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I don't know, like I've just been like seeing so many things that pertain to like my signs that are like, you're gonna lose money, you're gonna lose an award. I'm like, no. But that's neither here nor there. But your social circles may need to change. You may need to cut some people out of your life, but not individual people. You may need to cut groups of people out of your life, groups of people that no longer are in line with like your values, your value system. And that's real. That's really real. If you have, let's say you value sobriety. Let's say you value peace of mind. Let's say you value sleeping in on a Friday night, curling up next to a good book. Yet everyone in your social circle wants to drink and smoke and shoot up and get high every weekend, you know. Probably time to let go. Probably time to let go of them. Again, if you don't let it go, the universe is gonna rip it away from you. But yeah, think about the things, think about your values, think about your money, but also think about your general values. Think about your resources. Where do you get your money from? Are these people coming in the way of that? For example, if you are funded in any way by I don't know. Like, for example, I guess I'll use another historical example. There's been a lot of there's been a lot of talk, I'll say, about affirmative action in the news recently. I'm not going to get into that because I will go off, okay? But beyond that, when affirmative action started like years ago, I think it started in the 60s with JFK, close to like its beginning phase, I think in like the 70s, I want to say the 70s and 80s, there was this one university called Bob Hope or Bob something. And on their campus, they prohibited interracial dating. So because of that, they were no longer given federal funds because it goes against like, you know, social justice and like affirmative action precepts, essentially, right? So that's how this can be played out. That's just like an example of how this can be played out, because your social circles may contradict with, well, your social circles will influence your values. That's more or less a given. So let's say you run with like super conservative Republicans. I mean, relating back to this example, let's say you run with like super conservative Republicans who like don't believe in miscegenation and think that like, you know, races should just be segregated. Yet your resources come from the government, and your resources are funded by sources that your resources are funded by sources that need you to not be an asshole in that way. No shade. Then you have to kind of make that split. So I know that was a really long and retracted example, but that was what came to mind. I'm sorry. But yeah, also some humanitarian ideals. If you're working on a project or you have this big lofty idea that is humanitarian in its essence, you may realize that you just don't have the resources for it anymore. And maybe you can no longer give money to these organizations. I know me, if you live in a city in America, you know that these canvassers are real. And they are like, yo, like, give $50 a month. I know you have it. And I'm looking at you like, I'm a student. I don't have $50 a month. I don't know why you think I have $50 a month. That's not even fair. So you may realize that you can no longer give to these efforts, or even the humanitarian effort that you create yourself. I remember when I did a project that was bringing clothes to orphanages, in Nigeria. That cost me a lot of money. It cost me so much money, so I can't do it anymore. So think along those lines. All right, Leo. Yeah, I was like, we just did Cancer. Leo, Taurus is in your 10th house. And Leo is your first house. Okay, think about your work environment. Think about what you do for work. How do you go about your work? think about how people view you in society. Because 10th house, even though it mostly is our work, if you do anything else that's pretty prominent in society, you're gonna see it in the 10th house. And anything that more or less makes you like a stand-up citizen, your reputation, that's 10th house. Think about it. What are some things you can cut away from? Do you have a reputation for being late, especially late to work? You can let go of that. You can cut that out of your life. You can eliminate that. Do you have a reputation for being a workaholic? You could work a little bit less. Does being a workaholic really, correlate with your true self and your true identity? If it does, cool. If not, maybe you want to make some changes to cut away. Maybe you might be quitting your job around this time. I don't know. You might be asked. I don't think people really get demoted very often. I would hate for you to get demoted. That would suck. But yeah, you just might have to cut away from work a little bit, or just, examine your reputation in society and think about how you can edit it in terms of letting go. Remember, the moon is waning and we're letting things go. And when you're thinking about what to let go, you have to think about it in terms of your identity. How do you truly identify yourself? Who are you? And how does that relate to the image that you're projecting? Because it doesn't always add up, but it should be roughly aligned with each other. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Virgo, Taurus is in your 9th house and Leo is in your 12th house. 9th house, higher education, thoughts, not just thoughts, but like theology, philosophy, thoughts, and also travel. And 12th house is distant travel. If you have study abroad plans, you might have to let go of them. You might have to delay them. I would hate for that to happen because I'm such an advocate for study abroad. But maybe you can't go as far as you'd like. Maybe you have to think a little bit closer to home. Or maybe you just have to let go of them altogether because the moon is waning and we're letting go of things. On the other hand, you might have to let go of certain beliefs or philosophies that you have if they don't align with your spirituality and your spiritual perspective or reality. You may have to let go of ways of thinking that don't align with your hobbies, ways of thinking that don't align with your emotional self, essentially. This is asking us to look at feminine energies and masculine energies. Feminine energies in this case, well, it's actually a bit mixed because a sign is in a feminine sign, but the house is masculine. I'm just gonna go with the house. The feminine energy in the 12th house is, for you in this case, because Leo's in your 12th house, it's very spiritual, it's very emotional, it's a water house, whereas the 9th house is a fire house, it's masculine, it has to do with thoughts. So for example, I could take me as an example. Theoretically, it's very hard for me to believe in the supernatural, just in general. Just anything that's not like explained by science, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I don't really believe it. That's how I am theoretically. I mean, I have like 2 planets in Gemini in the 9th house. Don't blame me. But spiritually, I know things are real. Just on my day-to-day experiences, history, like my family history and just history in general, like I know that there is more to life than what we see and what we can measure through science. So you may have to let go of some philosophical, intellectual notions and beliefs that no longer serve you. On a more mundane level, you may have to let go of certain degree plans that you may have wanted to do abroad. You may have to let go of And I'm talking about like abroad, like as far out as you can go, because that's very 12th house. 12th house is like far off lands, like a different world. But 9th house travel is like the next country. So yeah, you might have to let go of, you know, doing your master's abroad, or maybe not let go, but like delay it. Might have to let go of any higher education that you were planning on. The universe may just tell you that now is not the time. Alternatively, the universe may challenge you around this time, but remember that the moon is waning. It's about letting go. So hopefully you're letting go of an idea and not a total degree. Okay, so Libra. Taurus is in your 8th house. Ooh. And Leo's in your 11th house. So, occultish things, taboo things, things that we don't talk about in society, things that are hidden under the rug, sexuality. You may have to let go of sexual practices. You may have to let go of certain taboo things that you do, because you're realizing that the circles that you run with don't really gel with that. They don't play that whatsoever. You could let go of your friend, but I'm seeing this more so as you're being challenged in terms of your deep spiritual nature, kind of like your instinct. There's definitely potential for a death, not like an actual death of a person, hopefully not, but more so a death of some aspect of your psychology, some part of you. I mean, we as humans, we're constantly like in a rebirth. We're constantly just kind of having a new self come forth. I wanted better words for it, but I couldn't find it. And a new self requires a death. So maybe you're saying death to the old you and pushing through with something new. You may also have death to some of your practices, whether they're like magical or, you know, just in general taboo. And these deaths will arise because, or rather endings will arise because they don't gel with your social circle, and they are not true to like the larger society that you associate with. They also may not be humanitarian. They also may prevent you from getting certain awards. Think about that. Okay. Scorpio, Taurus is in your 7th house and Leo's in your 10th house. Some of your relationships may have to go. They may have to be snipped off and taken out of your life because they're coming in the way of your occupation. They're coming in the way of your job. They are hindering you and holding you back. Who wants that? So let go as needed, or the universe will rip it away from you. Yeah, I see this as just like, just people. It could be partnerships, business partnerships that no longer work for you. It could be, you know, like a specific, you know, romantic or sexual relationship that you're in that no longer serves you or comes in the way of your work, maybe it taints your reputation. A large part of our reputation actually has to do with the people we're around. You could be the most stand-up character and like best worker, but if you're known to always hang out with hoodlums and, you know, people who are constantly involved in crazy shenanigans, it's going to taint your reputation. It's going to limit you, and sooner or later you're going to end up like them. Sorry. So yeah, so seek to let go of relationships that no longer serve you and who taint, specifically, which taint your reputation in society, which get in the way of work, and relationships that hinder you from reaching your full potential. Like 10th house is the top of the chart. So this solar eclipse coming up should actually be really good for you because it's the top of the chart, you know, it's where you shine. So yeah, Sag, Taurus is in your 6th house and Leo's in your 9th house. Right. Okay. So think about daily routines that are coming in the way of your life. Sorry, that's ridiculous. Daily routines that are coming in the way of your higher education, daily routines that are coming in the way of your philosophy. For example, let's say that every day you wake up and you go to Starbucks and you order a $10 coffee. Sorry, $5, which is still ridiculous, but I don't judge. Let's say every day you wake up and you order a $5 coffee from Starbucks. But you're trying to pay your school fees, you're trying to study abroad, you're trying to do something that requires money, essentially. And a lot of 9th house matters actually require money. They also have a lot to do with luck. But in general, higher education, unless you get a scholarship that's gonna cost you money. Well, also depending on where you live. Traveling abroad, that's gonna cost you money, regardless of where you live. Theology and philosophy and thoughts, that's a little different. Those typically don't cost money. But in terms of let's deal with higher education and traveling for 1 second. Let's say every day you buy the $5 coffee. Then you realize, wow, if I just didn't buy that coffee, or God forbid I made it myself, I would be saving, I don't know, $5 a day. That's $35 a week. That's at least $1,200 a month. That's $2,400 a year, maybe I can make my own coffee. I don't know, especially if I want to go on a trip that will cost roughly $1,200 from the get-go. So that's one thing to think of. On the other hand, that's more in a financial way of thinking. So look at daily things that will inhibit you from success, or the ability to have access to higher education and traveling abroad. On the other hand, with the thoughts and the philosophy and theology and just expanding your mind and general luck, think about the daily things that you do. Are you constantly, saying my life sucks, and every day you just have these negative things that you're telling yourself? Quit that right now, please. Please cut that out of your life. It's not worthy of your time. It's not worthy of your mental space. It's not here for you. And it'll probably override your more prevalent philosophy that says, my life is worth living at the base, at the very basic level. But yeah, think about things that you do on the day-to-day that are not really serving your long-term goals, because 9th house is also long-term goals. Anything that you do on the day-to-day that impedes your long-term goals has to go. And this is very important because 6th house is kind of the engine for the 9th house. For example, let's say that you want to get a PhD, which is 9th house. You're gonna have to put in work on the day-to-day in your classes as an undergrad to prove that you're worthy of getting a PhD, that you're worthy of getting into a PhD program. If you, on the day-to-day, slack off all the time, you're not gonna get to your long-term goal of getting a PhD. So yeah, look at daily activities that you do, things that you do with work. Also think about your health. And how that is coming in the way of your long-term goals. Okay, Capricorn, Taurus is in your 5th house of lovers and love and business and children. And Leo's in your 8th house of occult and spooky things and taboo things, etc. So think about, okay, so first thing I thought of was if you do have joint assets with a lover, probably time to let them go. Not the person, but let the money that you get from them go, or maybe the person too. Who knows? If you have, Obviously you can't let go of your kids, like not even gonna try that. But if you have, or maybe no, I mean, if you have like a very what's the word, suffocating, you know, relationship with your kids, you might want to let go, give them some space to breathe. But if you have a business, you might have to let go of joint assets. If you have any joint assets, you might have to let go of fifth house. Ideas about self that don't really correspond to your true spiritual beliefs. Especially if there's anything in your life that's taboo, and it taints your idea of self, you have to let that go, especially if it's negative. Gotta let it go, you know? If it's inordinately positive, for example, if you think that you're like a magical witch who can do anything at the drop of a hat, probably time to let that go. Fifth house is self-love, not illusion. So, you know, gotta let go of some things that don't serve you. I don't know your life. Maybe you are that witch. I don't know your life. I'm just saying, if you're a Capricorn, something to look out for. But also just, I think it's more so putting it in perspective in terms of your self-worth. Not even in terms of your abilities, but in terms of how that feeds your self-worth. Is it impacting it in a positive way? Is it impacting it in a negative way? Anything that's negative needs to go. Anything that's like, you know, ridiculously grandiose needs to go. Look about how you can cut away and just kind of have your self-worth on a level that's right, you know? Okay, Aquarius. Taurus is in your fourth house of like home. Is it? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Taurus is in your fourth house of home. Leo's, sorry. Leo's in your seventh house of relationships. Perhaps you need to tell your family to back the fuck off. Sorry, I try not to curse. Tell your family to back up when it comes to your relationships. It could be challenging. That's what corners are about, they're squares. But you may need to let go of the need to have your family accept your friends, the need to have your family accept your significant other, the need to have your family accept business partners. On the other hand, if your business partner, your friend, or your family is in your house, you may need to kick them out. I don't know how these things work for everybody, but it could work like that for you. If you have somebody who is maybe renting your property, maybe they're not living in your house, but like you're renting them property, you need to kick them out. It's just about letting go, and it's about things that no longer serve you, getting cut out of your life. Again, this is coming in between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, so it's going to be a little bit more major than others. But at the same time, I just can't tell you how it's specifically going to act for you. I can only give you general, broad themes and whatnot. But property, family, home life. Perhaps you need to stop letting certain relationships into your personal sphere. And we all have, you know, people that we hang out with, people that we eat lunch with, people who we talk on the phone with, and people who we let into our personal lives. That's different. You know, if you even let anyone into your personal life, you know, you have to know which relationships are ready for that and which are not. And if certain people have been in your space and they shouldn't be, cut them out. Or just kind of take them out your space. Create space for yourself. Pisces, Taurus is in your third house of communication. Leo's in your sixth house of daily work. Perhaps the way that you are communicating is not good. Perhaps it needs some work. One thing I thought of with this aspect is YouTube. Don't let it suck your time. No, but in general, you may have to cut away from internet in general, if it's coming in the way of your daily work. If it's like, if you find that you're constantly spending like 2 to 3 hours online when you have better things to do, you may need to cut away from that. The universe will challenge you to cut away from that. If you find that you're spending too much time talking with friends, just like on the phone, too much time hanging out with like, not even like best friends or like quality people, but like acquaintances, just like allowing acquaintances to soak up your time. You got to cut away from that because it's coming into your daily routine and it's taking too much time out of your daily routine. So I encourage you to look at things in your daily routine in regards to YouTube. For example, people often shame others for not being in tune with the news. So I decided to add like CNN and what else? BBC News, even Deutsche Welle, because I'm trying to get fluent in German, into my YouTube channel, because they'll give you like 5 to 10 minute clips about random news stuff. BBC is even shorter. They do like 1 minute. I had to cut out CNN though, because they just kept putting the same thing out over and over, and I was like, no. So yeah, but I also realized that having all those YouTube subscriptions takes up a lot of time out of my day. I'm looking at you, Deutsche Welle, because it's like so much content that you put out, but it's helpful. So if that's something that you no longer want in your life, or it's not like conducive to your daily, if it's getting in the way of your daily work and the things that you actually need to do, cut them out, or try to, unsubscribe from one account or another account. Quit social media. I'm such an advocate for that. Such an advocate. Yeah, so that's all I have for everyone. That's all I have for Pisces. And now I'm gonna just do a quick note for everyone. I feel like I forgot it. I forgot the quick note I was gonna give for everyone. Wow. It had something to do with, I don't know. No, I honestly just forgot it. It was a good one though, whatever. But if I didn't say it before, like I said, this last quarter is probably gonna be big. So if you have any questions, if you want some more guidance, if you want healing, whatever, go on mysticalilluminations88.com. You can find me under readers. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that you can use for your benefit. And yeah, that's all I have. So I'm gonna let you go. Bye.